It gets amazing. When you start to see these outputs and the quality and you start to actually get what you want, my gosh, it's so cool. You're like, what else can I do?
Welcome to the Simple and Smart SEO Show podcast, where we talk all things brand building SEO, helping you connect with your audience, elevate your visibility, and grow your business. I'm your host, Waddell, here to bridge the gap between SEO strategy and real-world business success by bringing you insights, stories, and conversations from the SEO community and beyond. Whether you're an entrepreneur, marketer, or SEO enthusiast, this is your place to learn, share, and build a brand that stands out. So grab a coffee or your favorite tea, and let's dive into smarter SEO for your business. I was an early adopter of Jasper, and when I was learning Jasper, I was also shifting into marketing and learning more about how to market my own business because I was trying to move my Etsy shop from Etsy to Shopify. And I was learning about these marketing formulas like problem, agitate, solution. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. To learn that there are all of these frameworks not have been exposed to it. Then I felt very, oh my gosh, cutting edge. Other people hadn't heard about it either. But now with Claude and ChatGPT Pro, like I had seen the Pro option. I didn't even know what that was. I just noticed it this last week. So what's the difference between that and the regular?
Okay. So the difference is every response takes about 2 minutes. So here was my journey. This will help explain it. I was using GPT-2. I didn't use it directly, but I used it with tools, precursors to Jasper. And there was a tool called Article Forge. That was the first kind of version of me using AI. I couldn't really do much other than like spammy stuff. I wouldn't want to show my mom or my family that website because it is ugly as all get out. GPT-3 came out and I realized, wow, I'm just going to become like a prompt engineer. So I remember December 2022, I told my wife, I'm just going to be in front of my computer for this whole year. I'm sorry, but like this is the future. This is like the equivalent of Google coming out and me knowing ahead of time that this is the thing. So that's how I felt. She said, all right, if you think so. And so GPT-3, here's what I noticed. There was a lot of things you could do that was pretty cool. But ultimately, it just fell short and it had big limitations. GPT-4 came out. I noticed that give it enough time where I'm hitting my head against the wall, I could solve, I want to say 90% of my use cases. But ultimately, it was impossible to actually solve some things. I would say that the O1 and O1 Pro there's nothing it can't solve. Truly. Now you still have to hit your head against the wall, but now it actually breaks down every wall once you've understood prompt engineering. I don't think O1 Pro is good for anybody that is not a power user. You need to know prompt chains, which is, I have a whole library of prompts. I have probably 100 different prompts for different situations. And then some of those prompts have series of prompts within them. You need to have that kind of knowledge if you're going to make use of this. Otherwise, the $20 version is all you need. It's so stupid expensive. Even at $200 and with my skill set, I said, it's not worth it. So for me, I wouldn't recommend it. It is super cool. If you're a coder, you can solve any coding problem. It's really cool. I'm nerding out over it. Very awesome. The difference is that you can actually click on it as it's thinking and you can see how it's thinking about it. So it doesn't respond immediately. It goes, yeah, I'll map this out. And then, oh, I need to consider this. Oh, yeah, I'll do this. So instead of GPT-4o where, hey, write an email and it goes, yep, blah, 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 it doesn't do that.
Ooh, so I do think that's pretty cool. I'm definitely not a power user, but the idea of being able to watch how it thinks
it's cool.
That's very interesting to me. Okay, so back to more of a practical question about ChatGPT and how you use it.
Yeah.
How do you stay organized? Because before these folders came out, I don't know about you, but my ChatGPT looked like my Canva, and that is not.
Yeah, same.
Do you have any tips for keeping that organized?
Yeah. Oh, man. Now you have projects. Here's how I organize things. So I'll show Claude and then I'll show ChatGPT. So inside of Claude on the desktop, you have projects. So I can just go here and look at all of my projects and I could add more projects. But in here, let's do a personal brand. So now all of my workflows, instead of just that like giant string, you're now compartmentalizing it. So in my personal brand, now it still has that, but ultimately each conversation I don't really need to maintain or remember that old conversation anymore because all of its context is really set up in its project knowledge. So things have changed. I used to need to find those old conversations because I would continue to use them and be like, all right, this one's kind of trained on what to do for this specific task. You don't need that anymore. Just hit add content, add text, and you could train it right here and then it will always have it. And you could do tons of stuff. So that's how I stay organized now. And now I used to have a ton of different prompts even of, okay, even if it has all of this here, how do it might have access to 50 prompts. How do I remember which prompt to use and to invoke that? Here, I can just create and edit a style. So now these represent prompts almost. So this is my semantic SEO. This is how to do, if I want to list educational style posts for social media, a lead magnet post, contrarian post. If I just want to write a hook for a YouTube video or for a social post, VSL, webinars, ad copy, my email copy. So you can start to see like all of it is here. So I'll show you with Hookmaster just what it looks like. You can do options, I can edit style, and it just looks like this. So I've labeled it, and then I've got my steps here, and that's all there is to it. You can do all sorts of stuff. So that's how I stay organized here. The ChatGPT one is, now my folders are gone because I'm no longer paying for it. I need to actually change the subscription. I had folders, but here it's just a mess. Like literally there's so many things in here.
I'm going to say, that's familiar.
Yeah, this is bad. The best way to probably stay organized on this one is make your own custom GPT. Once again, Claude is a better version of this. But if you want to stick with ChatGPT, totally understand. I love the tool still. And there's some things I will forever use this tool for. Like the speaking thing, this is amazing. I now don't type. I'll just like transcribe my voice and then I'll take that transcription and then I'll give it to Claude even. Like I'm always transcribing in here. I love their walkie-talkie thing. And like on the mobile app, you can even live show your camera or I can show up my screen and then just ask it questions and super cool. So ChatGPT has some awesome features. But in here, if you just make your own GPT, that's the other way to I think stay organized. Otherwise, I'm just as messy as you. The problem is these conversations disappear after a month and unless you keep reusing them. So I've lost some really important conversations that I wanted to keep using. So I really recommend paying for the $20, setting up projects, and then you'll have folders and it maintains that much longer. And if you watch the 12 Days of Christmas that OpenAI did, I love one of the use cases because it actually touches everyone's life. The guy showed himself uploading his refrigerator like manual, all of his home manuals. So here's the garage manual. Here's how to operate the Ring device. Here's my car. All of it's in like this home folder. And then you could store things like, hey, I last changed the filter on December 6th. And then maybe you're like 4 months later, you go, when do I need to change the filter? Today is this date. It will literally remember and tell you, and it will tell you how to do it. It'll pull all that stuff up. So I think that's like an incredible way to stay organized is using projects and uploading some info.
Should I be excited or afraid of AI? The answer is yes, it's both.
Things are going to look so different in the next couple years. You will not be ready for the disruptions that are going to come.
I'm Jeff Nielsen, host of Digital Disruption, the go-to podcast for technology leaders. Our generation's conflict, I think, is going to be emotional, not economic. The companies that are going to win are the ones that have a couple of characteristics. Stay ahead of the curve with Digital Disruption. Available now on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, that's awesome. I definitely would need a reminder for my filters. It's not a terrible idea at all. It's a very good one, very helpful.
Yep.
I do like the folders, but I hadn't been using the folder up until they came out. And now I'm just trying to go back through and reorganize. And again, it reminds me of trying to do the same thing in Canva when you create sorts of different graphics in different ways and stuff. How does this go together?
Do you have your brand thing written out in Canva?
Yes. The brand with fonts and all that type of stuff.
As long as you got that.
Yeah. So now you don't have to at least go look for the hex codes and all that type of stuff.
My gosh. Yeah.
So
I
like
important
the one click that they have where you can just change a template, like all of the colors in there.
Yeah.
That's also very helpful. Yeah.
I love that too. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Technology has made things so much easier where I'm just astounded. It's so fun.
It's like, how did people used to do their jobs?
You needed a big team.
And now the fact that you said that there could be a one-person team that scales to $1 billion business, that's just incredible. It's inspiring. It's very encouraging. Yeah. But I do want to back up and talk about SEO a little bit because obviously this is the Simple and Smart SEO show. But how did you get into SEO? I could see your love affair with AI, but how did it start with SEO? And then how did it lead you into this world of automations and AI?
I was training to be a pastor, and then I was a salesperson. I went to school. It took me 7 years to graduate off and on. I'd go in and out of sales jobs, not because I hated it or anything. It was just that I knew I didn't want to stay in sales. I knew I wanted something else. And ultimately, I just couldn't figure my life out. So I ended up pivoting. I'm not going to get lost in all the reasons why I'm not a pastor now, but I ended up pivoting and it left me in this weird spot and I had to figure out something. So my dad's an entrepreneur and he is really good at sales. But what I noticed is he sucks at marketing. Absolutely terrible. But it doesn't matter because he could sell ice to Eskimos. But in this new world, marketing is really important because everything is digital now. So it used to be just sales, but even salespeople now. You need to understand LinkedIn Sales Navigator. You need to understand how to use Apollo or maybe Clay, or there's all these different tools that are like sales enablement, email tools. It's just getting more important. So I decided, all right, I'll look at marketing. So then I listened to 200 episodes in a row of the Tim Ferriss podcast, which isn't super aligned with marketing, but I knew it was aligned with business and entrepreneurship. And that, for those that don't know, that is 600 hours of content, just about. And that's all I did. I just became a machine where I was just doing that. I was a bartender. And then I switched where I basically took a pay cut where what I needed was more time. I needed to make just enough money where I could work in a job that I could learn and figure out what I wanted, but at least be like close to what I wanted. So I became a technology strategist. My whole sales pitch to the guy was, look, I'm an amazing researcher. I paid for my first year of college by writing other people's papers and I would guarantee an A and all you have to do is pay me $50. It's just been easy for me to write. I'm really good at it. I used to write poetry and enter competitions. I studied 7 years of Latin. So like language, vocabulary, writing, that kind of stuff I knew that's my big powerhouse skill that I had. Okay, what can leverage that skill? I just literally started Googling things. And then I said, what can I do that costs no money? And then I found SEO. In my city, I was like, Nashville SEO agency. I called every single agency. No one answered my call. Then I switched it to Freelancer. And basically, I filled out their forms and I called them and I said, I will offer you $50 and I'll buy your lunch. Please just sit down with me because I need to get started in this industry and I need to talk to somebody. Someone accepted and his name's Jeremy, really nice guy. And that's what kind of started it. After we talked, we really got along. We both loved Japan. We liked anime. We're super nerds. He likes SEO. And I just got involved. And what ended up happening is I said, I'll do work for free. And then I switched it to, if I bring in the lead, can I get 50%? I'll do all the work, but I don't want to bring in a lead and then I'm not able to actually do what I promised them. So having him as my backup of, I will only use you if I can't do it, it gave me the confidence to be like, all right, I got somebody. And I recommend that for anyone getting started. If you have somebody where just work for free, which is, there's so many people that will do that. And after you work for free, maybe try to bring in some leads, family, friends, that kind of thing, if you truly believe in the person you're working with. And that's how you can start your career. And after that, it was just a matter of chance, luck, blessings from God of, hey, the guy that was mentoring me got hired by a company. He brought me with them. And it just so happened that company was a big SaaS company that competed with Ahrefs and Moz and all these other companies. And yeah, it just kicked everything off for me. So I'd say that's my journey. And the real thing that got me to, I think, where I'm at now was first finding Bill Slawski. And then what solidified Bill Slawski for me was Corey Tugbert. And Corey is the guy that kind of came up or really popularized topic maps and entity SEO. And that's where we're at now. I answered the question. I will say that the SEO I did before 2022 is entirely different than the SEO post 2022. There's a huge shift. So I can dig into that later if you want to, but that's my journey.
Okay. I do want to dig into that, but I have to back up just a little bit because I remember you saying that you had been studying philosophy since you were a young child.
Yes, since preschool. Yeah.
Yeah, since preschool. Like why, how, what is that all about?
I don't know. I had a weird upbringing. In preschool to first grade, it was just Christianity. And then second grade introduced Rome and Greek philosophy. And so much of Christianity is impacted by Greek thought, really. And specifically Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, those three. But yeah, a lot of religions were impacted by them. So I did that. And basically, it was just that, like, whatever I was doing, I've always been a nerd. I don't think that I'm necessarily smarter. We all get good at what we want to get good at. I wanted to consume knowledge. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to consume. So all I did was that. My parents were racing to find schools that could basically scale with me. Will they actually allow my son to, I know he's in second grade, but can he do fifth grade reading level? Or will you allow him to do other things aside from just what you're expecting for other people? It's such a small amount of schools that you can really choose from. So that's why I ended up doing this kind of like education that I did. And I'd say the most impactful one, the one that really sent me on my way, was this guy that's like he runs things like a Marine, and his brother is a Marine. And his name's Robbie Grayson. And that man, he would just take in troubled kids, because I was also troubled. I would get into trouble all the time. And his whole thing was he would really let you just figure it out. So he's the kind of guy that's, I'll let you break your finger just so you can learn this thing, or I'm here for you, but like very roughhousing sort of guy. It was awesome. So that set me on my way, and that's how I got started in philosophy. And I've always been curious how kids ask the why. That never stops, and I still do that. It makes me a bad employee sometimes because I can't just say, sir, yes, sir. I have to know why. I don't know. I don't understand it, but yeah, I just want to know the why of everything.
I totally get that. I resonate with that so much. And I think it's very cool that you've been able to take your passion and build it into these companies and services and consulting. I feel like a mind like yours is so perfectly positioned for a time like now, because I don't know about you, but the way that large language models work, like, it makes sense to me. You are on like a different level, but I feel like I understand the fact that like your mind was made for this, for all of these different types of inputs, and being able to synthesize that into something that makes sense with something that works at a speed that can stay up with you and manage your questions. So that's what I'm hearing from you.
You made a point, and it just resonated, where if you said mothers listen to this too, or this podcast, you have a wide array of people. One thing to note is if you're a parent and you have an inquisitive kid, I think learning how to get your kid to really be able to use AI to answer these questions in a safe way, it's going to be amazing. Because I wish I had this tool as a kid. It would have been insane. It's unlimited learning as deep as you want to go. Incredible.
Yeah, we can stay there for just a second, because I have a son who's 12, and he loved the idea of Gemini. I got him one of those phones, one of the new Pixels or whatever. He was so excited about Gemini, but he's not 18, so he can't use it. So he uses my chat. He's used it to ask questions for homework, of course. He's used it for ideation, for writing papers and all that type of stuff. And I'm like, hey, even if you're reading something that you prompted it to teach you, you're still learning. There's ways that learning is happening. And he's also used it as a therapist. So, and as a friend.
Regularly.
I do too. So I thought but he was the one that gave me the idea for that. And he's 12. And so I thought, wow, this is such a powerful tool. And I used to be a teacher. So I know a lot of educators are nervous about kids using ChatGPT or any kind of large language model. They're worried about the cheating. Look at
they will cheat.
And they will cheat, but they're going to cheat anyway. But sometimes even in the cheating, they're going to learn. And if they're not cheating, they're definitely learning. And so I just see so much potential there in education.
I agree. I was a teacher too for a little bit, and I absolutely love it. I don't know why schools are taking this position where they're so anti-AI, because ultimately school's about training you for the world. It would be like a school taking a stance of no calculators to do math.
Yeah.
That's idiotic. That's so dumb. AI is replacing everything, or not replacing, it is enhancing. It will either enhance everything that exists, or it will replace everything that exists, or a mixture of both. There is not an area where AI will not penetrate, period.
Yeah. One of the problems in general is that we're still teaching our kids the same way that we did 50 years ago when we were trying to train them for factories. Like, we're not encouraging their innovative thought process. It's more of do this and fit in this box. And if you do that, then you get a gold star. But that's not the future. The future is not in a box. And so that's one thing that's really frustrating. And then just education in general, like pre-K. I just found this out in North Carolina. I'm not sure if it's nationwide, but they won't teach them how to read in pre-K. And so when you think about those educational initiatives like No Child Left Behind. Of course, kids are going to be left behind if we're not encouraging them to read before they get to kindergarten. And these are government funded programs. So it's like, what are we even doing here? So that's just, I'll probably edit that part out. But that's one of those things that's driving me bonkers about public education, because I'm like, this is on purpose. They are purposely to hold these kids back. And I'm like, why would you do that? What is this greater sociological experiment that they're doing that they would want that to happen?
Someone's making money.
Yes.
That's the only reason. I think someone wants money and power.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. I don't know how you're doing it with your 12-year-old, but what I plan on teaching for my kid is the new importance is your ability to understand concepts, and then to be able to explain concepts, and then to understand how understanding even is reached. What's the best way to explain something, and what's the best way to understand things, which goes into educational theory. And if you can teach that, and this is actually how I created my SaaS tool, was I applied educational theory to SEO. I even have a LinkedIn post where I share like piece by piece, because AI was made with a blend of the understanding of how the human brain works mixed with educational theory. That's all, which is incredible. It gives you the secret. So I think those two skills, which means, okay, it doesn't mean that you have to memorize everything anymore, but if you read, all right, let's say you therapist, for example, read a book on therapy, a good one, and then just take some notes. And once you have that, you now can just understand how to translate that to give it to an AI. And now you have something it's like you're talking to the author, and you're getting advice, not just from a generalist model, but you're getting advice from not fully trained, but you're getting really good advice. And it helps me with my marriage all the time, because I am asking it to see, can you explain from the female perspective? I'm the male in this situation. I have a wife. I did this. She responded this way. Help me act as like a marital counselor and just try to get me to see things through her lens. And then, okay, that sounds hard. How do I achieve that? And it seems simple. I'll just ask those kind of questions. But I have favorite people now in each sphere, and I just like to reference them. So whether it's ad copy, whether it's working out, whether it's you name it, I think we should just, as humans, and this is also goes back to my education. All of my educational institutions that I was at, they had the belief that education changed in like 1850 or 1870 with factories, so 150 years ago. And before, we had the Harvard model of education and Oxford model of education. So that was around, they've been around for 500, 400 years. That model was develop the human. And the human is not just a capitalistic production machine. It is music. You need to understand art, because you need to be able to express yourself. Humans need to. Art is a way to balance the soul. It's a way to like tweak things. And then you need to understand a little bit about math. You need to understand a little bit about how to work with your hands. You need to understand how to talk. So I would say that's how you push a kid in the right direction, is how to learn. What are the components of learning? And ultimately that comes down to deconstructing things. And that goes to Greek philosophy with Euclid, which is you need to find the unit, you need to understand the whole, you have to understand the parts. So how do I use AI to deconstruct this homework assignment and understand all the parts? What are the components of it? Not just what the assignment components are, but the subject matter. What makes this subject up? And then the kid's free to then explore whatever interests them. Oh, that component seems interesting. Ask whatever questions you want. Teachers don't have time for that. And a lot of them don't have patience. Some of them don't care. So AI seems like a perfect tool for kids.
Yeah.
Dangerous too, but everything that's good is dangerous.
But you're absolutely right, because I worked with special needs students and they have what's called IEPs. But I'm like, every child in education really should have an individualized education plan. How much more would they be engaged if they were learning about things that interested them, and you could apply some of the pedagogy or whatever that you need to have in place, but combine it with elements of their social life or the games they play or whatever to make it engaging to them. That part of education really excites me. I wish that I was in a position where I could help with that, but seeing it from the outside is cool. And then being a parent is actually the best position to be in, because Asher and I've talked, he wants to be homeschooled. And I'm like, now, because he's an only child, I want him to be in school just so he's around other people. I'm like, you can't sit behind your computer all day. Maybe you can, I don't know. But for right now, you probably should get out there. But he's told me like how he would build his school and like what he would want to learn. And it's really interesting. I feel like kids are so different now.
They are. Maybe it's an encouragement, but there are programs where you can do hybrid. So it's like you go to school maybe once a week or twice a week. I forget what those are called. But I went to that for 2 years, and that was a good blend. My parents were trying to experiment with homeschool, but it was like half homeschool, half schooling. Then I had tons of friends that were full homeschooled, but then they had all of these programs that they were a part of. So it was important that they had hobbies. So they were on sports teams, they were on like a debate team. If you decide to, then you can find good umbrella programs and other ways to get with people. But that is important. You got to be with people.
Oh, man. Yeah, you're so neat, Andrew. This is such a cool conversation.